Hi, today I want to talk about some of the common wine tasting terms, the vocabulary of drinking wine. There's a lot of them that are, they're odd words you'll hear them. You'll get used to them. Sometimes initially they sound really strange, but after you've used them a while, it's just par for the course. So let's just jump in, no particular order. I should say I'm drinking a Petite Syrah here. This is from the Sierra foothills out of California. One of my favorite up-and-coming regions, so I'm looking forward to getting more from that area. But let's just take this one. This is Petite Syrah, which tends to be a bolder wine. What does bold mean? Well, that means it's more in your face. It's not one of these little dainty, nice, delicate wines. It's bold. And along with that one, you'll often hear big. It's a big wine. You take a sip of that, it's all over the place. So let's do that. Yes, very much so. Now, this one, I do have some notes here, so if you see me looking down, that's what I'm doing, just so I don't forget and leave things out, which I probably will anyway. But anyway, here we go. So big, bold, yeah, this is just an expression of how much it fills up your mouth. You take it, excuse me here, you take a tiny sip and it feels like you're taking a giant bite or something. Along with that, you've got some other ones, typically your big, bold reds, red or white, of course, those are simple terms. Your big bold reds also tend to be kind of tannic. Well, what does tannic mean? Well, we've talked about tannins in the past. Usually what that basically means is you're going to be tasting the tannins. So that's, you not only know they're in there intellectually, you taste them. Okay, acid. This is a term you'll hear. This is refers to a wine, of course, that has acid in it. Now, what does that taste like? Well, have you ever tasted vinegar? That's pretty acidic. Anything that's got kind of that burny, sour, super sour taste to it. Lemons, for example, raw lemons, just taking some lemon juice or sucking a lemon, that's very sour, that's very acid. These are good things to, this is particularly a good thing to have in wine if you're serving it with food. You like the acid actually helps digestion and it makes the food taste better. It doesn't taste quite as flat and monotone. The acid actually wakes up the flavor of a food, steak for example. Excellent to have with steak. Another term you run across, vegetal. What does that mean? Well, vegetal, kind of breaking it down, vegetable. Vegetal means it has a flavor that's kind of green or vegetable tasting. Usually you'll find this in wines that were picked a little bit, or grapes that were picked a little bit too early to make the wines from. They just have kind of an herbaceous taste to them. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. Now one that goes kind of along with that is Grassy. It has a taste that reminds you of freshly mown grass, like somebody just mowed a lawn. This is really, really common in Sauvignon Blanc out of New Zealand. It's one of their actual defining points, their distinctive points, and is considered a good trait too, a grassy taste or a nose to it. Well, speaking of that, what's a nose? Okay, nose, obviously the thing in your face, but it's also what you use to get the aromas of the wine. So that's, yeah, that's one that kind of bothered me at first. And it's like, oh, well, how's the nose on that one? It's like, well, that bottle of wine doesn't have a nose, but it's got a nice fragrance. Now, nose is the term that's used. Get used to it. Okay, along with that, we're talking notes. Now, what's a note? I hear notes. You've got the little kind of right on paper or musical notes. Quarter note, eighth note, half note, whatever those things are. But when we're talking wine, we're talking either notes in the sense of different things you smell or taste. So I've got some raspberry notes on the nose on this wine. Okay, well, what does that mean? I mean, okay, I'm smelling raspberries. Obviously no raspberries in there, but it's something you smell that the wine gives off. So a note is another word for fragrance or taste. Let's see what else we got here. Fruity. Now, fruity does not mean sweet. This is a big, big misconception. Fruity means that you're actually tasting the fruit. Some wines are less fruity than others. Some wines are not fruity at all. Some of your Cabernet Sauvignons can be very non-fruity. You'll get the wood flavors, you'll get the tannins, you'll get all manner of things, but you don't necessarily get a lot of fruit flavor with that. So if you've got a fruity wine, it's one where the fruit is predominant in the taste. Now, along with that, you can get what's called a fruit forward. This means you take your first sip and bam, right in your mouth, you're tasting like this whole cornucopia of different fruit flavors. You know, it can be not just grape, of course, but you can have raspberry, you can have cherry, you can have whatever it is, just a lot of fruit flavor. It may only be one fruit. It might be real pronounced peach and some whites. So you get this real big peachy flavor. Well, that's a very fruit forward. That's how you would describe it. When you get something that's very, very much fruit in your face, in your mouth, right off the bat, fruit forward. Okay, hot wines. Now, hot wine is not referring to actual temperature. When you drink a wine, it kind of burns going down. That's usually indicative of alcohol, either out of balance or too much or something. So a hot wine is one that tends to be very alcoholic tasting. A good wine is not going to taste like alcohol. You're going to drink it, enjoy it, and not even think about how much, actual booze is in there. So, moving along here, Foxy. And again, these are in no particular order. Okay, Foxy was I kind of enjoyed when I first heard it. Oh, this is interesting. What's this mean? Found out it's when a wine has a flavor of Concord grapes when it's not a Concord grape wine. Okay, what does Concord grape taste like? Think Welch's grape juice, Welch's grape jelly, peanut butter jelly with grape jelly. That's your Concord taste. That's what's referred to as Foxy. Some of the American wines tend to be that way. They're more so in the past than they do now. You'll occasionally run across one. Now, if you're drinking a Concord grape wine, the standard Mocha David or something, yeah, it's going to taste Foxy because it is Concord grapes. Surprise. Okay, others that deal with kind of the mouthfeel are smooth or mellow. These are ones that, again, you take that sip and they just go down so easy. There's no burn. They're just kind of float down. Mellow can be one that's not real big, but it's not real light either. It's kind of in between. Definitely not a mellow one there. Very good. Okay, rough. This is something. You got smooth, well, you got rough. Well, if it goes down very smoothly, it can also go down very roughly. So that can be a scratchiness. It can be a lot due to tannins. It can be due to too much alcohol, a hot wine. Usually not, though. It can also be because it's a very young wine, which, again, is another term. Oh, this is a young wine. What does that mean? Young wines tend to be a little rougher. They're not as finished. They're not as smooth. They can also be a little more fruity, fruit forward. Lots of things there. Now, when you get a wine that just doesn't quite have everything together, literally it's out of balance. Too much alcohol, too much tannin, too much acid, not enough of these. Any of those things, that constitutes an out of balance wine. Excuse me. Okay, along with that, you got your out of balance, obviously you've got your in balance wines. That's where everything works together. That's where you tend to get all your good characteristics, your smooth, your whatever it might be that you're describing. Those are your in balance wines. Let's see, what else have we got? That's some of the major terms. I mean, there's obviously a lot of other terms. I might do a second one of these. If you run across terms that you've heard, you want to know what they mean, leave it for me in the comments. We'll maybe do a second video on this, like more terms. So hope that helps you out. I know when I first started drinking wine, seriously getting involved in it, really learning about it, ran across a lot of these. And it's like, what does that mean? Foxy? Give me a break. So anyway, hope that helps out. Like I say, I hope you learned something. Give me a thumbs up. Tell your friends about this channel and enjoy your wine.